Michael Montani, GIS consultant at the UN Global Service Center. Welcome on Geospatial FM.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
I'm so excited. Can you tell us just a couple of sentences a bit more about what you do, what you coordinate at the UN?
Okay, so perfect. I am Michael Montani. I work for the United Nations Global Service Center, which is the logistic base of the UN, and I'm working in a specific program that is called the UN Maps. So you can imagine it as a kind of the Google Maps, but for the UN. And I am the coordinator of the crowdsourcing activities. So whatever related to collaborative mapping and volunteer engagement.
Okay, yeah, it's been fascinating to prepare this episode with you, and I've seen a vast presentation and picked some slides out. So yeah, let's work through the agenda, starting with this longer question. So let me read it out. One of the services provided by United Nations Global Service Center, or UNGSC, is the Service for Geospatial Information and Telecommunications Technologies, or SGITT, getting straight into the acronyms here. Where is it based? How many geospatial professionals does it employ? And what are a couple of events or conflicts or disasters where it is currently assisting UN work?
Okay, thank you for the question. So the SGIT, we usually shorten the abbreviation as well. It's basically the office in the UNGSC that is providing geospatial and telecommunication assistance to the UN peacekeeping missions. So our main let's say client, we usually refer to them like this, are the peacekeeping and special political missions of the UN. And we are supporting all the missions across the world. There are many in Africa, and then also Asia, Europe. So the UNGC is providing logistical support, whatever from let's say providing vehicles, containers, assistance, but also software and in particular also geospatial technology.
Okay, so you mentioned UN peacekeeping missions. I think, yeah, anyone in the world sort of has an image of what that involves, and white armored vehicles or land cruisers, often men and women in blue hats, things like that. Are there any peacekeeping missions currently happening now that you can tell us about?
Yes, sure. So UN Maps is supporting some specific missions right now, specifically MONUSCO, UNSOS, and UNISPA, UNMIS. So there are like many acronyms, but basically we're operating with the missions operating in Somalia, in Democratic Republic of the Congo, ABA, that is like a region between Sudan and South Sudan. We are working with the mission in South Sudan as well, sometimes with the mission operating in Libya. So we are, with the UN Maps program, we are supporting many missions, but the UNGSC as a logistic base is supporting all of them. So there are missions in Lebanon, in Kosovo, there is one in Cyprus. So it's really everywhere, not only Africa. There is one also in Colombia. So it's a general support and service provider.
It's amazing. I mean, I and so many in the audience have a geospatial, career. But this sounds like truly what geospatial or GIS can be, given that it's around the world, not just one small linear infrastructure corridor that so many of us
Yes,
get involved
exactly.
in. Okay, excellent. So Kidal, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, in Mali, is an example location of a standard mapping activity of UN Maps, producing topographic maps for UN peacekeeping missions. So could you tell us more details?
So yeah, you mentioned Kidal. So the main activity that UN Maps is doing is to provide topographic missions, topographic maps to the UN peacekeeping missions. That has been like an historical task of the logistic base, so to provide geospatial insights on the places in which the blue helmets, as you mentioned, are operating. So providing support basically for operation and also patrol routes, so to understand how to protect the civilians and the local populations. So what we are doing is to take areas of the world that are completely unmapped. Like we can see here, Kidal in Mali is like a city in the middle of the desert. I mean, we are in the Sahara Desert, or close to it. And as you can imagine, like commercial providers, they don't have like a lot of incentives to provide geospatial information in these places. So if you open Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever other application, you most probably won't see much data in these areas. So we have to map it, so to ingest the data. And we are using OpenStreetMap, so it's like the open database of the maps. It's like a kind of a Wikipedia of the maps. And we are also providing all the different services for generating basically topographic maps. Those maps are 1 to 50K scale, and they are depicting all the features that could be natural features like waterways, land cover, land use. Then there are also human features like villages, road networks. So everything is mapped. So I can show like a slideshow. This is how it appears in Google Maps. There is nothing, only a market. And this is how it is in UN Maps. So we can see a lot of more roads, points of interest. There are even 2 airports that they weren't there. And there are also all the land cover, land use, waterways and road network. So we are providing this information on OpenStreetMap, and we are using it to generate topographic maps, but also other geospatial services. So for example, in this case, we can see how it looks from the UN Maps application as a let's say website.
Perfect. This is a really nice illustration of the transformation in mapping that your service to the UN provides. Talk us through an example of an operational map for a current or recent UN deployment.
Okay, perfect. So I can share again my screen, and this time I will go to the web application as well. So as you can see, if we open the UN Maps application, that is obviously available only for the UN staff. So it's not publicly available because we are on one side using open data as OpenStreetMap. So we are also editing public data, especially for the base map, for whatever is a baseline information. But we are also having a lot of operational and security information, like the location of troops, police checkpoints, or maybe areas that are currently endangered. So there is like both natural or security risks. So this information cannot be public. So the application itself is accessible only by the peacekeeping missions. And the operational map is actually supporting all of the missions. So I just put an example here. We can activate several layers, but you can see, for example, all the flights that are connecting the different UN camps across the countries, as well as the location of troops in the different camps. So this is more or less how it works. There are, as you can see, like buffer areas around some disputed boundaries, and those are to be checked, and the flights between the different missions. So in this case, I'm zooming in Central African Republic and South Sudan. We can go in MONUSCO, so in Democratic Republic of the Congo, and we can visualize all of this information. So this is basically the operational map. We can see the different nationalities of the troops, so the battalions, the blue helmets. Probably the audience doesn't know, but the blue helmets are military that are given, let's say, by the different member states of the UN. So they are given to support peace. and they remain militaries of those nations. They are coordinated by the UN, but they are still national militaries from the different countries. So this is like a dive in on the operational map service that we are providing.
It's so amazing. I couldn't help but sort of recognize the interface. Is that Esri Enterprise or ArcGIS Online?
Yes, exactly. So in UN Maps, we have a kind of an hybrid approach. We use a lot of open source and open data, but also proprietary solutions. And the main partner of the UN is Esri on that side. So we do have many tools that are Esri based. So, but the idea is to take the best from both worlds.
Yeah, it's a small comment, but still, I think meaningful to people who make these kinds of maps. I really liked seeing the symbology and the nice, neat vertical stacks of flags.
Yes.
How is that achieved?
So they actually in our team in SIT we do have a team unit that is composed only by graphic designers and geospatial staff, but these people are working only with the symbology and the graphics. So we do have a pool of people that are really only thinking about how to best visualize the data and to convey the messages, especially because if you see the topographic maps that we produce, those have like a standard military symbology. Is called MGCP. That I don't remember the acronym what it stands for, but it's basically the military standard used by the NATO. So it's something maybe I can show it real quick how it looks like, just to give you an idea. So this is more or less how it looks like. So the data here is everything coming from OpenStreetMap, but it is designed in a way that to me, like as a civilian, is not very understandable because there are like very slight differences in the land cover and the land use colors. But this is very clear for a military. So they know exactly what to do when they see a map like this. So this is the topographic map, how it is designed. But these people in UNGSC, they are working with the symbology. So they study what is the best way to represent the data in all the contexts, like either in the cartographic product or the web map applications.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing. It's a whole world of professional symbology in a regulated context that I think so many of us in the profession are fascinated with. Yeah.
Most of the times the focus is always on data and analytics, but there is also a very huge component that is the graphical part, that is like the artistic side of our job, let's say.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think that there are people who are actually trained to read maps and they really need them to be formatted that in a way that matches that training. I think that's a fascinating prospect for someone in our profession, and I think a lot of us maybe who are more in the engineering consulting context, where just something that is on the map will suit the engineers.
Yes, exactly.
It's quite interesting. So.
Yes, in our case, military uniform personnel are specifically trained to read these maps, and we cannot change much on that side. We have to. The challenge there is to map the data in such a way that is readable as it should be in a topographic military map.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I feel like we could go on and on and on this, and it'll be amazing. But unfortunately, we've got some more questions. What limitations of UN maps led to UN mappers?
Okay, perfect. So it's like more than kind of a limitation, is more like an opportunity, because as I was mentioning, the production of topographic maps for the peacekeeping missions has always been like a historical activity of the logistic base for the peacekeeping missions. But before UN Maps, it was conducted basically with private databases and servers. So we were editing data. Well, we were editing data on Esri platforms, on ArcMap, we were storing the data on databases, and the data was staying there without much updates. And if we wanted to have more maps or new maps of the same areas, we had to remap them all again from scratch, and we had to pay consultants and other stuff to produce the data. So this was like quite unpractical and costly. So the logistic base decided to adopt open data, and in particular OpenStreetMaps. So the data is there, no? We can just fetch the data again for an area that we want to update and modify the data on OpenStreetMap as it is already there, and then we can produce new maps on those areas. So as UN Maps is adopting open data as a core aspect, let's say, of the program, it was kind of natural diving in the crowdsourcing part. So once UN Maps was established, also UN Mappers was kind of established. And UN Mappers is basically a community of volunteers. It is composed by a very diverse audience. There is like UN peacekeeping personnel staff, but there is also people from whatever place, like could be academic personnel, so teachers, but also students from universities and high schools. There is digital volunteers across the world. We even have people from national cartographic agencies and other national organizations. So it's composed by many different people and geospatial professionals, and they are helping us producing the data for the peacekeeping missions. So they are editing data on OpenStreetMap, and on the other side, we are also helping them, like giving capacity building, training opportunities, so that they can have like a kind of a win-win exchange by collaborating with us.
I've heard of the tasking manager, humanitarian open tasking manager. Is that what it's called? OSM?
Yes, that is like basically an NGO that is providing some collaborative tools to edit OpenStreetMap, and yes, we are using their platform as well. So we are opening projects on this platform. So if you search for UN Mappers organization, you can find all our projects to contribute to.
Okay, so could I just immediately go on that website and start contributing to a UN Mappers deployment?
Yes. Okay. That is totally feasible. You just go on the tasking manager. The website is tasks.hotosm.org. You go on explore projects. You click on filters, and you can search for the UN Mappers organization, and you will see all our currently active projects. We are currently collaborating with the Food and Agricultural Organization, so the FAO, in mapping agricultural waterways in southern Mauritania. So we see here all the tasks that users can take and map. And we are also mapping building footprints in Afghanistan in a city called Kandahar. This is in support of the UNAMA mission, so the peacekeeping mission in Afghanistan. And it was actually a collaboration with the An Erasmus Plus project from the European Union. So these are all the projects, and you can just enter. If you have an OpenStreetMap account, you can just enter and edit the data. And as a matter of fact, we are also providing many learning opportunities for people to learn. We do have also a learning platform that they can use to understand the quality of data that we are requesting, how to edit topographic features. So that is really, really important and key for the crowdsourcing.
Yeah, so there was actually a mirroring of the emphasis in terms of training and upskilling. Used in my volunteering through Engineers Without Borders, you mentioned the term capacity building. They had the same approach there, and I really like that. you can use the phrase, teach someone to fish, and they'll feed themselves, so that sort of theme, I think everybody appreciates as an approach to tech. Okay, so you mentioned some current deployments. I'm aware of a few examples in the past as well. So tell us about the Turkey-Syria earthquake and what UN mappers achieved.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, as I was saying, we do have our core business that is providing support to the peacekeeping missions, but from time to time, as we do have actually a very big community of volunteer and enthusiasts, we are also supporting in natural disasters whenever happens one. So we are giving our contribution together with many other humanitarian organizations. So for the earthquake, I guess probably all of the audience can remember that in February 6th, 2023, there was a huge earthquake that basically made around 60,000 deaths between Turkey and Syria. And also there were like 120,000 injured people. So it was like the deadliest earthquake since the Haiti earthquake in 2010. So we had to collaborate and do something. Basically, when the earthquake hit, the first thing was actually an action taken by UNOSAT, a UN agency that is providing support with satellite imagery during natural disasters. I mean, this is their core mandate. And they provided analysis with AI of the areas that were most hit by the earthquake from satellite imagery, so that the different humanitarian organizations, and also the other UN entities, can use these insights to understand where to support. No. So once the analysis was out, many organizations, including the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, created projects to collaborate and provide information. So we have been mapping building footprints in both countries. Also, together with the help of AI. So there were like some tools provided by Microsoft. There were some tools provided by Microsoft that can basically help assist the mapper by showing like an identified building footprint from satellite imagery. So this is like human AI assisted mapping, let's say. But we do have also, let's say, the political part, because this data was available by Microsoft only in Turkey, but there was no data in Syria. So for Syria, for example, we had to do the manual way and to create projects on our own, so to engage with only humans. So sometimes there is like these things that people, don't really care about, but there are some little nuances in which we do have to provide data, to leave basically no one behind. We cannot support only Turkey, but we have to support especially people in Syria that are also under a civil war. So there is like much more need, even though if maybe the casualties are way less, the need is much higher in that area. So that is it. So this is basically the activity that we have been doing, the mapping. So you see the blue dots, let's say green to blue dots are where we mapped the most. So we were around the southern border of Turkey, but also, as you can see, the western border of Syria.
And just to orient people, that's the Mediterranean Sea in the south west of the map.
Yes.
With Lebanon to the south.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
And as you can see on the top right, we have this analysis by UNOSAT that was highlighting the areas in Syria and Turkey that were hit the most. And there were also open aerial imagery provided by volunteers there, like people, OpenStreetMap enthusiasts that were sharing drone imagery. Because there was actually the local government in Turkey was also doing the same, but not sharing the data. So people had to basically take the data another time with drones they owned, and to share the data publicly, just to make the intervention much quicker. In this case,
So hang on,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt, Mikhail. So you're saying there were in the region affected by the earthquake enthusiast drone operators?
Yes, 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 exactly.
So Syrians and Turkish people.
They were members of the OpenStreetMap community in Turkey, so they were providing this information. They were there.
Fantastic.
And in this particular case, we were able to activate 450 volunteers to map around 20,000 buildings in the points which I'm showing on the map on the left.
Amazing. That's a huge number of buildings. Okay, you made some commentary about, I guess, Microsoft's AI for good efforts, or at least that's especially what I became aware of amongst many other tech companies' AI for good programs, especially during the fires in LA on the US West Coast at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And there were so many different efforts by these companies to use automated means to extract building footprints from imagery. So it's nice to hear how the UN also leverages this functionality, but also that you are having to complement these automatic efforts, probably, I guess, due to quality issues with this UN Mappers human volunteering effort.
Yes, exactly, and that is mainly because OpenStreetMap. I mean, the best aspect of OpenStreetMap is the ability to share data among all of us. I mean, we don't have to sign SLAs, MOUs to share data. That is very bureaucratic. We can just dump everything on OSM, and it is available to everybody, also other UN and humanitarian entities. So what we need to do is also to ensure that if we are uploading data on OSM through AI, that is basically kind of an import, we have to ensure that the data that is already present in OSM is not duplicated. No, so I mean, the human component is you cannot do without it, at least not for now. So that is the way to go for this kind of applications.
Yes, the political implications of a vast import of data in OpenStreetMap can be quite significant. You can really annoy people in the volunteer community. Okay,
but for a right reason. I mean, it's the way to behave altogether. I mean, we cannot just dump data as we wish. That's not the good thing.
Yes, I'm guilty of something on a much smaller scale. I did the Lebanon Mountain Trail for the whole of Lebanon, but I did it with good intentions, but it overlaid somebody else's effort to map the trail in some parts of the country. So I had some discussions with that person. Actually, this is what happens in Australia. Yeah.
This happens to everybody in OSM sooner or later. But actually, you have to think about when there were no import guidelines at all in OSM. So I remember there was an import in Somalia about the road network for the whole country. And we are working in Somalia since 5 years, and we are still correcting errors coming from this very, very old import. So like data is there, and it doesn't get validated until somebody does, no? So so that's why the OSM community puts some clear guidelines on how to import data on OSM.
Okay, all right, yeah, really nice to have this commentary around some of the implications of of the work, and that even people at the UN running these campaigns come across similar issues. Okay, great. So we've had one example in Turkey and Syria for an earthquake. Could you also talk us through a flash flood response in Libya, and again what UN Mappers achieved there?
Yes, sure. So in Libya, just reading a bit the data, it was in September 10th, 2023. And the number of casualties is not very clear. It ranges from 15,000 to 25,000. And basically it was it was very close to the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. So we had like these two activations almost overlapping. And there was this cyclone Daniel that was basically bringing a lot of water rainfall in Libya specifically. But in Derna, that is the city that was hit the most, basically there were two dams that were on top of the city. Those dams collapsed completely, and the whole city was flooded by water. And we got in touch immediately with the OpenStreetMap community working there. And they told us that even 6 levels buildings were completely flooded by mud. So you can imagine like a sea of mud that completely covered the city. It was always about building footprints. And also in this case, we used Microsoft for AI, Microsoft AI for Good to understand which buildings were submerged by mud or not. So the work that we do here was to map the buildings and then to apply a specific tag on OSM to understand, to just tell whether this building is submerged by mud or not, so that local rescuers can have a clear understanding of where they have to go to dig, And we organized mapathons with the local community. So this is like usually the procedure that we adopt. So we organized a mapathon with around 50 volunteers from the local university there. And they helped us providing the data. So it was like we were collaborating all together for the days just after the flash flooding.
Did I understand correctly that there is a OpenStreetMap volunteer community in Libya?
Oh yes, that is correct.
That's
It's
really
actually
amazing.
It's actually is actually very active. I can show always some other work that we did in Libya. Do sometimes for peacekeeping missions, even activities related to virtual reality and 3D printing. So we specifically have a team working with building 3D models of the cities in which new peacekeepers are joining, just to let them train before going outside, because it could be like a very dangerous context in many times, like in Mogadishu, in Tripoli, and so on. We let them train on this, let's say, digital 3D world, and then they can go outside. And here in this image, you can see all these purple lines. These were all Carta View street level imagery, and was collected by the local OSM community in Libya just before we were even starting the project. So this data was already there and available. And our graphic designers used this data as a reference for the modeling of the 3D buildings. And then we also had the mapathons to edit building footprints. So unfortunately, I mean, this is not like very interesting, because it's always about building footprints that are not the, let's say, most challenging OSM activity that you can entertain. But let's say our core business is basically everything else but buildings, because we are mapping topographic maps at the 50K scale. So buildings are not there. So we map everything else.
It's so nice to see that it's beyond just a gimmick, that so many of these technologies can seem to be. So and also I just love that like there could almost be a whole podcast just going around the world reaching out to all of these local OpenStreetMap communities that you say are thriving and are responding, and for example providing imagery in Turkey, or helping with on the ground information in Libya. It's just so nice to know that there's this thriving community, regardless of the status of the country, or the stereotypes that people might have about what's going on. No, there is this active contributing community in each of these places. That's really nice to hear.
Yes, and definitely it's also very nice to participate whenever possible to the global State of the Map conference, because I know there is a huge one that is the US one. but there is also the global one that is actually welcoming people from all over the world. I mean, we have contributors coming from everywhere, so that is very nice sometimes
Yes.
to meet people that are very far away from where you live, and they have like total different mapping stories and needs. So it's
Yeah, I went to the one in Japan in 2012, actually, after I finished that volunteering stint in Cambodia. And I did like a 5-minute lightning talk about the updates to OpenStreetMap in Cambodia of the province boundaries, even the national boundary, district boundaries, and transforming the highway classification in the capital city. Yeah, so, and I think, as I understand it, the State of the Map conference occurs at different locations or different cities around the world.
Yes,
So
so
it was Tokyo
it's
2012.
changing every year is changing, and let's say the different local communities are proposing at the end of each conference where to do next time. And it's usually hovering around Europe, but in the recent years, it's moving also elsewhere. This year it will be in Manila, in the Philippines, so very far away. I mean, at least from Europe. And then there was one in South Africa as well. No, yeah, I don't remember. No, it was in Kenya. Sorry, last year it was in Kenya.
Amazing.
So now is moving everywhere. For many years it has been in the UK, because OpenStreetMap was born as
Yes.
the map of the streets of London. So the community was basically all from there. But then I mean it developed in Europe, and then it went elsewhere. So there is a huge community in the US as well.
Okay, yeah, it's such an amazing project. Okay, and just something that has come up in the answers that you've given. So Overture Maps Foundation is an organization that Microsoft contributes to, along with several other tech companies and map data providers. As far as I'm aware, their building footprint dataset is about 1.2 billion footprints at the moment. So I imagine that might be quite useful with these building footprint update or collection efforts in response to these disasters for the UN. Do you have a relationship with Overture Maps Foundation? Do you use that as the starting point for a lot of your analyses or data collection efforts?
So we don't have like any interaction with Overture Maps Foundation directly, because it's mainly composed by commercial providers, and are mostly Western-based commercial providers. So, I mean, as the UN, we should maintain, as I was saying, like this kind of, we have to be impartial, like in the data that we produce, and so if we leverage data from Overture, I mean, that will be most probably very complete on the Western side, but I'm wondering about the Eastern side of the world. So, like,
My understanding is that it's an effort to map with global coverage. And I guess that's why I raised it, but I'd be very interested to hear your perspective, of course. Yeah. I'm not here to promote them.
Yeah. But the company has, they are based in
Yes.
the US and Europe, so I don't know. Like, we have to see how it will go. And then another disclaimer is that most of the data is coming anyway from OSM. So it's like the building footprints now is OSM plus the Microsoft buildings, plus some other smaller sources. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's something that we are already availing of, because we access the Microsoft buildings datasets. We do have OpenStreetMap, so I don't know. It's like sometimes I don't see like how it can be let's say so different from OSM, or especially for this kind of data, because if we're speaking about POIs, I guess probably is much more complete than OSM, but it's not our focus, especially in economically developed countries. So there is like not a lot of synergy. And then especially these high level collaborations, those have to be decided from the headquarters in New York. So I have just like personal opinion, and I have not a say on
This is all
on
very
everything.
welcome. Everybody that's listening has a very strong interest in the opinions of the UN on everything. So yeah, I love that.
Yes, these are all my personal opinions anyway.
Okay.
So
I won't accuse you of speaking on behalf of the UN. But yeah, again, it's just really nice because Open Shore Maps Foundation is sort of sold online on social media, on LinkedIn, as the answer to everything. So I think it's really nice to have a more conservative and skeptical opinion of what they're doing. So yeah, thanks for that, Mikhail. All right, let's step through to the next item. So give us a summary of UN mappers in numbers.
As I was saying, we established the UN Mappers around the second half of 2020. So it's some years that we are doing activities together. We can count volunteers by checking the OpenStreetMap chain sets. So to see whoever edited at least once with the hashtag UN Mappers on OSM. So we can count 5,600 contributors within the UN Mappers community. That is actually a lot of people if you really count that. I mean, behind all of these OpenStreetMap user accounts, there is people, real people working on data. But we are also, as I was saying, we are really leveraging capacity building, and we are providing trainings to people to perform this high quality mapping. So we organized around 330 events in these 5 years. That, I mean, if you make the count, is a really huge amount. And I mean, if you count, yeah, it's like one event every 5 days, so more or less, calendar days. And then
You
we
guys are doing
trained,
really well.
yeah, it's huge. And then we trained 3,000 volunteers and students. This is the number of subscribers within our UN Maps Learning Hub platform. That is like our online capacity building platform that maybe I can show later on. And then in total, we produced around 627 topographic maps that contain 70 plus operational layers. And these maps, if you count all the whole area, I mean, if we do the comparison with Italy, is almost 1.5 times the area of Italy. So it's like Italy plus another half. If we count the total amount of land cover and the topographic features that we uploaded on OpenStreetMap. So that is like a huge contribution that comes from the UN to the benefit of everybody, because people can, and even local communities can avail of the data that is produced by the UN with the, let's say, taxpayers' money. So that is like the way it should be. And then we mapped a lot of linear features like roads, waterways, and buildings. We can estimate around 12 times the equator for the roads, 33 times the Nile for waterways, and around a coverage of 1,100,000 inhabitants for building footprints. I saw you had the hand raised. I don't know
Oh
if you
no,
have
I
any.
was just scratching my head.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I love this in numbers, and that you have used Italy as the unit for understanding the impact. Um,
Yes, I
I
mean,
know
because the
you are in
logistic
Italy
base
right now, so
the logistic base has two offices. One is in Brindisi in southern Italy, and the other one is in Valencia in Spain. That one is mostly about the telecommunications, while in Brindisi it's much bigger and older, and is hosting all the supplies of the UN. So all the containers, vehicles, all the food, pharmacies that are getting shipped to the missions are stored in Brindisi. So that is like the main logistic base.
okay. So sorry, did you say how many geospatial staff there are in the
Yes, no,
Italian
I
office?
forgot. I forgot, but in UAGC in total, I mean, counting Valencia and Brindisi, we are around 700 people, 700, 800 people.
That are geospatial or GIS
No,
staff?
the geospatial stuff is more about 50 in
50.
the sheet service that in which I belong as well.
Amazing. Okay, yeah, interesting to know. So I think this is all really interesting. I think everybody would love all these statistics and understand this mysterious force of the UN. You're helping to demystify things. Okay, so what has worked and what has not worked in building a global volunteer mapping army. How do you maintain engagement and excitement in the long term? How do you get people to keep coming back?
Okay, very good question, because I mean, whoever approached at least once citizen science knows very well that one problem is retention of people, like volunteers. They have to keep the engagement. So as I was mentioning, we do have some aspects that we developed in our crowdsourcing activities to keep the engagement active. So the first one is really, on one side, the continuous presence on social media and also direct communication platforms. We do have like a Discord server in which we communicate one-to-one with volunteers so that we can help them and we can show that we are present whenever they have a mapping question. So we are helping people to edit. And then we have all the capacity building opportunities. We organize trainings, even like several weeks long with the universities or also volunteers online. One important thing for capacity building is the presence of material and delivery of courses in different languages. Because I mean, most of the learning material on OpenStreetMap is in English, so we are developing material in French, and the idea will be to cover all the UN official languages, so also covering Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and Spanish. So we currently have courses on Italian, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese as well, and something in Arabic. We are like completing the Arabic version of all the material, and we still miss the Russian. But this is like more or less the progress on the, and that is very important because there are many people that maybe would like to collaborate with us to contribute to the UN, but they cannot because they don't know the English. I mean, it's like the international language, but we cannot think that everybody knows it. So that is very important. And then another thing to keep the engagement is also the social recognition. So whenever we have volunteers collaborating with us, if somebody is really motivated, we are running this initiative called the Mapper of the Month. So every month we see whoever is mapping the most, or like whoever is creating the most events around UN Mappers activities, and we are awarding her or him with the award on social media. So is like publicly visible, is very nice. So this is giving a lot of motivation to people as well. So we have like this sort of gamification aspect.
I love that you use that concept of gamification. And also, I can't help but think it might be a highlight of someone's life to have a public endorsement from the UN about their volunteer
especially
mapping.
especially when we do trainings, we release certificates of participation. And these certificates, especially for people maybe in Africa, I mean, that is very useful because it's something that it doesn't cost anything for us to release, but for them, they can change lives very easily. Like they can work as geospatial professionals in their countries. So that is really, really meaningful, I would say.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that would be fantastic. So this is a route almost to a geospatial career in some places. Okay,
Yes.
that makes it the importance of having local language materials even more clear. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. I appreciate, yeah, and I also like the link that you made to citizen science projects. That that is the realm that we're talking about here, and there's a lot of learnings that can happen amongst those broader efforts. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, what call to action do you have for listeners about how they can take the next step in getting involved? You already showed us how to access the tasking manager. Are there any other comments you have?
Yes, so the first thing I would recommend for people that are interested in our activities is to visit the maps.un.org website. So in this website, you can see all the links related to whatever UN Maps and UN Mappers related. So we have many social media, so you can follow us on the social media, and especially on the Discord, because if you join our Discord server, you will be able to interact with us, to propose mapping events, maybe with your community, and also to access let's say, a place in which you can communicate with also other expert mappers. And another one is the to access the Learning Hub, which is here. So to access the Learning Hub, so the website related to the capacity building. So we are hosting this is a Moodle based website in which we have many courses, including OSM Basics, OSM Advanced, OSM Basics. Well, I can show very quickly maybe, because this could be interesting. OSM Basics is covering everything from getting started to using the OpenStreetMap editors, the OSM Tasking Manager, the mapping of topographic features. But we do have also, and these are available also in all the languages. So, for example, in switching to Chinese, this is available also in Chinese. So that is all volunteer provided translations. So they are also helping us translating. It could be, I don't know, French. And that is, I mean, really a game changer for, especially when interacting with the community. The OSM Advanced has techniques about validation, interactions with the volunteers when validating the data, or also the cartography of land cover and land use that is particularly complex. And all the documentation can be also downloaded for offline usage. So this is really complete and suggesting all the interested mappers to join the Learning Hub. And there are also courses on QGIS.
Sorry to interrupt,
yes,
Michael. Could you show once again how to get to this page from the un.maps.org page?
Yes. Okay, let me come back. So the website is maps.un.org. And to access the Learning Hub, you just go on Get Involved, learn with UN Maps, and then you can find the access link here. Otherwise, you can access either from maps.un/learning or mappers.un.org/learning. So you can access from both of these URLs. And yeah, I was saying that there is also a QGIS course. This was actually provided by some professors in South Africa that are members of the UN OpenGIS initiative. So we do have collaborations, let's say, also in the provision of educational material in this platform.
Okay, wonderful, well-rounded resource. And again, I liked your demonstration of the multiple languages that it's in, which really boosts the global audience. Okay, yeah, great to have this example in how to be successful in community engagement in geospatial from the UN. Great stuff, Michael. Okay, we're on to the last question. How is the UN using AI? Is it building a foundation model? Does UNGSC or SGITT have a geospatial AI? What discussions, planning, and strategizing has occurred to do with foundation models?
Okay, so this is like a very, very big question. So as a first, as a starting point, I will say that basically all the strategy related to technology, but also politics and everything is decided from the UN headquarters that are in New York. That is especially true for the Secretariat, but also for UN agencies, funds, and programs. So the Secretariat has this role of coordinating what's going on in the UN, even though it's like a very complex task because it's probably one of the biggest organizations in the world. So in the headquarters, the GIS team there is in charge, let's say, basically of strategizing and understanding what are the steps to be done forward related to technology. And there is like a document called the UN Geospatial Strategy that is also listing AI as a tool that UN entities have to explore and to use for to be more effective in the work they do. In UNGC in particular, we do have we do have some geospatial applications. I'm referring to SGITT, so the service for geospatial information. So we do have a unit that is working with analytics and location intelligence. So it's basically services related to groundwater exploration. So just to find basically the water in the middle of the desert, because you need to set up a UN camp. So you have to find water to keep it alive, basically. And also satellite imagery detection. Specifically, there are some applications related to environmental, as when UN missions are phasing down, they are closing. One goal is to leave the least possible environmental footprint there. So there are analyses being done with AI on understanding what is the environmental footprint of the UN activities once missions are phasing down. So this is for the analytic side of the story. Then there is the mapping. And as I showed you before, we are leveraging AI mostly like in a human AI collaborative fashion, let's say. So human assisted mapping. And then there is also something that we are exploring is also the usage of large language models, especially for the geospatial analytics. So like to query, for example, geocoding or routing using large language models. So to have a conversation and get the data in the easiest way possible, like without even interacting with software or tools.
Yeah, I mean, the UN, I think in the preparatory discussions that we had, you said is one of, if not the largest organizations in the world. So therefore, it must have produced an incredible amount of text. So if I think it stands to reason that quite an interesting large language model trained solely on the UN's entire history of text production could be an interesting project and have useful results.
Yeah, indeed, and it's I mean the particular thing of the UN work is always the context. Like most of the time, so you are operating in areas in which there is no electricity, no internet, or maybe there is a conflict. And for example, you cannot fly drones very easily because they are getting shot down. So I mean, it's the context is very challenging. There is some technology development for sure. Although like it's not the real core of the UN to develop technologies, just to adopt and understand how to best use it to solve crisis. So that is the main activity. But there are definitely
You're right. So there's
many teams of personnel working with advanced technology for sure.
Okay. Yeah. In a dusty, what can I say, panic-stricken conflict or emergency response environment where someone is sitting sweating in a tent. These, what can I say, discussions about more cutting-edge modern technology to do with AI perhaps take a back seat, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like most of the times you cannot apply technology as you wish to, like for example drone imagery. I mean, that is very challenging. I mean, we try from mission to mission, but that is not very straightforward to do, like in ideal conditions in which you can fly drones without any issues or stuff like this.
But still, it makes me think, if these modern tools are really worth it, if they truly live up to the hype, then surely it is exactly in that risky environment where things are high stakes, and you need immediate, high quality responses and a basis for decision making promptly. Surely it's that kind of environment that these tools should prove their worth if they are to live up to the hype.
Yeah, exactly. And also another motivation could be also the cost of the technology. I mean, the UN, I mean, is a huge organization, but the budget, I mean, is not like that big if you consider the work that is doing. So I don't know exactly the numbers, but I was reading a report that the whole budget of the UN is equal to the budget of the city of Paris. So it's like not if you put things in the order of magnitude. I mean, of course, like private companies they do have like much more capital that they can use to invest in technologies and to make them work well. So that is also like probably one thing that can change.
That's really useful because it enables comparisons with the amount of spending that's happening on data centers and, just the teams just to hire people, $100 million to steal someone from Microsoft or OpenAI to bring them into, I think, was it Meta's AI labs? There's almost an obscene amount of capital expenditure that's going on here, perhaps without anything like the impact and benefit to humanity that the UN appears to offer with a much smaller budget.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, for the UN, it's very important, like not to rely, as I was saying, on other providers for very sensitive data. Like, for example, in our case, we have the international borders and the international country names and city names. Those have to come directly from the international community itself and not from any other provider. Like I'm just putting the example, if the US changes the name of like let's say a sea or some other regional place, we cannot. I mean, it's not automatically what the international
that was
community.
The biggest geospatial moment in the past year.
I know, and I mean the names are coming from what the international community agrees in the UN. So it's like every member states have their say on what all the international names have to be. So so that is like something that has to be taken into account. And as I was mentioning, like the UNGC itself to host this private data as a data center. So in our logistic base in Brindisi, we do have a data center to host data that we cannot rely giving to other commercial providers, for example.
Okay, it's amazing, Michael, the level of detail you have brought to this episode. You have taken us on a tour from Mali to Turkey to Libya, and you've also talked about the successes, the failures, the learnings, and the overall education effort based around capacity building for creating a globally distributed volunteer mapping army. There is so much richness in the UN's contribution to, I can say, open source or open data mapping around the world. The meaning of it all is so apparent, though, that it is about humanity's efforts to respond to conflicts and these disasters. This wall of mud from this collapsing dam in Libya, that it was 6 stories high, is a confronting image and really brings an understanding of the urgency of the work that you guys are tasked with supporting, this team of 50 in Italy. So yeah, Michael, it's also a sign really of the readiness and the keenness to contribute that someone from the UN has come on my small podcast, Geospatial FM. So Michael, it's a real highlight personally for me just to have this chance to talk with you, and I feel like I'm doing my small mission to bring inspiring stories of our profession through this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting me. It was a pleasure. And yes, as you say, like if whoever in the audience is interested in learning more about UN Mappers, they can see all the websites that I shared today, and they can reach out, and we are happy to give an end to join the community.